Hello everyone and welcome back to the BUSR. It is the summer series once again, as the weather would probably imply it's summertime. It is round 3 of the championship and we are off to Lithuania Motorsport Park. I'm Dan and I'm joined, as always so far, by Tom. Hello there, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Trying to embrace this heat wave that we're currently experiencing at the moment. Hopefully, it's not going to play too badly for our drivers. But apparently, we are going to expect over 30 cars on the grid tonight. So clearly, all of our drivers are showing up in force.
Yeah, we've got a basically full grid of 32 entrants here in Lithuania Motorsport Park. Now, if you're wondering why you haven't heard of that circuit, that's because it's not actually a real circuit. It's a concept circuit proposed by the landowners and organisers and potential owners of the circuit, and they're using the AC mod as a marketing tool. So this is a track that basically there is no footage of online. There are very little information. So most of our drivers have gone into this weekend completely blind. They've had to basically learn the circuit by driving it. Obviously, tracks like last week's Snetterton or other tracks coming up later on in the year, they have some experience of, whether that's through real life racing, with club racing, or whether that's through British touring cars or British GTs. They already know them. But Lithuania Motorsport Park is a brand new circuit for our drivers, which I think is going to add a really big challenge because it's new to everybody, but also it will be a great leveler because it's new for everybody.
Yeah, exactly as you said, it's going to be a massive leveler because we were speaking to Jack Noller last week, who was saying that his real life experience at Snetterton did in fact help his pretty handy pace around there. Let's say last week. So yeah, like you said, really levels the playing field. Are we going to see a shake-up in the order? Well, we have a reverse grid race as always, race 2 of the day. So I suppose we'll have to see.
Yeah, Jack Noller comes off the back of a stellar set of results, multiple race wins and podiums, puts him right at the sharp end of the championship. His other competitors to watch out for are BUSR regular Josh Woolley, Adam Sparrow, another one of our real-life racers returning to sim racing. Andrea Ruggi, well known for his very strong defence out at Snetterton. And then some of our other regulars like Owen Goldsmith and Aidan Larson are always in with a shout at victory. But with a 32-car grid and only 13 corners at Lithuania, it's going to be a tight one. Expect crashes is the main theory of the day. Is expect bumps, accept scrapes, expect carnage. So dodging that carnage may well be the decider between first and 15th or further down.
Yeah, indeed. And there's quite a few heavy braking zones in this track. You've got about 4 or 5 of them really going from top speeds similar to what we saw at Okayama and Snetterton, going all the way down into these hairpin corners. So yeah, a lot of work on the brakes on these GR86s today, but also plenty of opportunity for carnage.
Yeah, and these GR86s that we're running do have increased horsepower from stock. The stock car runs around about 200 and a bit. Our car's are running closer to 325 thanks to our special modders at the BUSR, which means they are even faster than they were originally. They are about the same weight, but they run roughly sort of on pace with a TCR car or a slow GT4 car. Think of them as a GT5 car is how I'm sort of imagining their pace in my head, which means they produce some cracking racing. The slipstream is powerful, but not all conquering. They have enough power to be fun, but not so much they're a handful, which means that for our 32 drivers, as qualifying gets underway, it should be a fun one. 2 races to come up after 20 minutes of furious qualifying action around this really wonderful circuit, the mod being made to an incredible level of accuracy. Thanks to its officialness and with lots of sponsors around, it should make for a cracking spectacle of racing as the drivers take to the circuit.
Tell you what, that massive bottle of oil could come in useful for my Focus in real life, I'll tell you that. But yeah, fictional track, as we mentioned, of course going to be done to an incredibly high standard, incredibly realistic, because it doesn't exist. This is the real version that you're seeing right here. But it is Josh Woolley out taking the, I suppose, lead of the pack, followed closely there by his teammate Aidan Larson, I believe, as he comes on to the first flying lap.
Yeah, Aidan and Josh, part of the Our Dress Up Darlings team. That trio of drivers have been highly competitive. They are very much targeting all forms of championship, both class, overall, and teams. Josh Woolley is a known force. He's won over 30, well, he's won 30 races won 2 races in Assetto Corsa out of 30, which is not a bad start rate for the start. Well, that was at the start of the season, so obviously that has changed since Aidan Larson has already been a champion, and Ben Gilroy was the final champion in the BUSR ACC era. So another very proven, potent attacking force they are, and that means there is always a little bit of teamwork between these drivers. They trust each other, they know each other well, they work together. We saw this last time out. If you can avoid a fight, then to push forward, then these guys will do that to help close up to our front runners. As we're seeing, we're on board with Josh Woolley now as he comes towards this very tight right-hander, which points you out towards this heavy, well, the first of these 2 consecutive left-hand hairpins that really test both the setup and the courage of the driver to keep it as fast as possible without slipping wide onto that lovely looking grass on the right-hand side, which I'm sure someone will go and then brake. Almost braking twice there, running it very, very deep, almost into pit entry for Woolley there. As he comes round the hairpin, pit entry is before the last corner here. This is our final corner now. Cut the curb as much as you dare. Power up to the line for what should be our first competitive lap time of the session. It's a 1 minute 29 on the top, but a 1 minute 28.4 on the left-hand side as Aidan goes faster. So we're aiming for a pole lap of sort of around the 28, maybe even into the 27s if our drivers really put the lap together.
And really, so far on this first final lap, nobody seems to be dominating every single sector. You've got Jack Noller fastest in the middle sector, Andrea Ruggi fastest in the first sector, and Aidan Larson fastest in the final sector. Now, as we've seen in previous races, you really want to keep those tyres cool. You don't want to do too many laps. We're thinking maybe five laps is the maximum to get the maximum performance out of these tyres. As Jack Noller breaks the beam and is nearly 3/10 off, which you would say is slightly uncharacteristic for him, but we do have to remember some of these drivers are carrying ballast from the previous races.
Yeah, we've got heavy ballast for our front runners. Mr. Noller running 50 kilos as championship leader. Aidan Larson in second place, he runs 45. Josh Woolley next up, he runs 40 kilos. Andrea Ruggi runs 35, and so far down from there to the rest of the grid, which means that in a car that only weighs 1.2, 1.3 tons stock, that's a big chunk of weight. That's basically more than they run in fuel added onto the car. When these cars are so lightweight and they have such relatively little power, that means there is a massive difference in the performance between the front runners and the back end of the top 10, and even into 11th, 12th and 13th, where you start to get your first ballast-free cars like that of Archie O'Leary or John B, who you can see running near the front there with Raul Llagas and Alex Hughes. Those cars are going to be more competitive, especially along the straights, out of acceleration zones, and even more so at tracks with steep elevation. We saw that last year in the TCR cars at tracks like Laguna Seca, where the heavily ballasted Josh Woolley Peugeot just didn't bother accelerating really, just sort of plodded on, whereas the unballasted Hondas and Cupras behind could come through with vast amounts more pace. So far we've already had a quarter of our session run. Please ignore the yellow flag there. That's just a little bit of AC being AC. Andrea Ruggi is currently topping the times, but it's not improving on this lap. Meet the Teacher in second place. That is the front runner of our 0 kg ballast cars. Just showing you the difference there. They've not been near the front so far really, but they've put it up in second place already. And then Larson, Woolley, Noller, O'Leary and Luke Pullen, who I believe is a relatively new driver to the BUSR, and then Ben Gilroy behind 8th, Zalia 9th, and then Jake Ansell in 10th place. So a nice mixed grid of cars with ballast and cars without, and of our classes as well. Should make for a fun set of races later on.
I'll tell you what, looking up and down the timing tower, it doesn't really look like there are too many people improving. And as I say that, Aidan Larson goes on to pole. Thank you for proving me wrong, mate. But you know, for the majority of these drivers, really no personal bests being set in most of the sectors. Jack Noller does in fact do a purple middle sector, so maybe I'll just stop waffling. I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. These drivers prove me wrong as we watch him come around the final couple of corners and onto the main straight. Let's see if he can improve on this lap time. It looks good to be a slight improvement. Oh, I say slight. It's a 27.4. I don't know what he did on that lap, but that's a gap of 0.6 to Aidan Larson in second place, and he's returned to the pits. So Are we going to see what happened in round 1 of Jack Noller just hanging up the wheel early, just sitting back having a cup of tea?
He may well do. I would not be surprised. The 27.4 is a very, very impressive lap time, and his first sector was not optimal. There is definitely time to be found in it, so that all came in sector 2 and sector 3, which is nearly a second quicker than some of the other lap times were being put in by other drivers. We have got improvements up and down the board, so this is very much not the end of qualifying. Andrea Ruggi, one of those such drivers we're now following on board with, who has a very strong season, come relatively new, well, completely new to the BUSR this year as part of that World Races team, the Italian, proving, oh, never mind, they pulled over, lap aborted for them. But regardless, they're still proved to be very strong. Aidan Larson, though, is currently in second place, running only 5 kilos less than Jack Noller, which just shows that they are one position apart in the championship, and that is for first and second. His last lap time was a 1:27.777. Lots of sevens. Some consider that a lucky number, some consider it an unlucky number, but for Aidan it appears to have been a decent lap time. He's still behind on Jack Noller, but he's definitely shown that he's got the pace to beat at least the rest of the grid on our first few runs of qualifying. We've seen Aidan for many years. We know he's a reliable driver. He raced all the way back in the first AC season when we ran the Audi TT Cup cars, and then he raced in the Ginettas to championship winning success, and then again, not as consistently last season, but he did race in a Cupra TCR car last year. But Jack Noller is returning to the BUSR, but this is his first season of AC racing, and that lap time was just an out lap, so please ignore that one in terms of timing. He was 30 seconds down, but that does mean he is back out and he is racing, which we didn't know if he was going to or not.
Yeah, indeed. So clearly Jack Noller back out on track, thinks he can improve on that lap time, and as you were saying, Dan, first sector was not even his personal best. So yeah, definitely timing that lap to extend the margin over Aidan Larson, sat just under 4/10 currently. But yeah, as we sort of tick under, or just close to 10 minutes left of qualifying, it's Jack Noller holding strong as my timing page freezes.
Yes, Jack Noller definitely holding that pole position. Just a word on our class system here. Although all the cars are mechanically identical, disregarding the ballast, we do have a class system for our drivers, which you can see by the coloured strips on the windscreen visor and the line above the driver's number on their doors. So there we have the blue on that car. It shows that they are part of the open class. That is a class free to open to anybody on Grid Finder. They can just join the season, join the Discord, come along and have some racing fun. Jack Noller, with his green accents, is part of the alumni class. Those are for the drivers that were once university students but have since graduated but continued racing with us, as we are more than happy to have them do. And our red bannered class is our core class. It's our foundation class as the British University Sim Racing League. It is our student class. It is the one that we count as the most premier, even though they are all equal, as we see the number 08 car there, which is one of our students of Raul Llagas, a lovely, lovely man from the Philippines, I believe, and there with the flag on the back corner. And yeah, he is part of our student class and part of the Job Well Done racing outfit. Very successful driver, scored lots and lots of points, got a good number of podiums, but just never quite had the reliability, the stoic dependability when put under pressure to keep himself in the lead whenever he's got there for that elusive race win. Put himself on 4th on the grid though, which means he stands in good stead to make progress later on.
And Raul Llagas, interesting to note that he is the only one in the top 7 to not be running any ballast. So maybe that's an indication of the more experienced, perhaps the more dedicated drivers really getting a grip of this circuit a bit faster than, let's say, the bottom end of the top 20, the top 10. So yeah, really you have to look down to Josh Willey, who's running 40 kilograms of ballast in 7th, to find someone who's not Raul Llagas running no ballast at all, which is Meet the Teacher in 8th place, who I don't believe we've seen so far this championship season. If we have, has certainly been very quiet.
Meet the Teacher has had a very quiet year. They had to miss the last few rounds because they were moving house. So their sim rig setup was in pieces, but we are very glad to have them back. They've raced with us for many, many, many years now. Well, many seasons, I should say, rather than years. They're very comfortable. They've won at least one race, so they'll be hoping to add to that tally. They've scored podiums as well. They won at Bathurst last year, which was the final round of the season, which means they kind of cemented themselves as the front runner that they always suspected they could be. they're looking to challenge for podiums consistently this year, and that lap of ballast will really help them, especially as their teammate at the Job Well Done team is Raul Yagas up ahead. So those two, hopefully they can do something. Maybe they can get closer in if Meet Teacher puts in a faster lap time, so that they can work together and push towards the front as our two front-running ballastless cars.
And some of our drivers this time round, as opposed to the qualifying rounds at Okayama and Snetterton, are opting to come into the pits. Some of these drivers have been into the pits 2 or 3 times as Meet the Teacher spins out of the final corner onto the grass, trying to do a dangerous rejoin, and doesn't by the looks of it. So this is Luke Pullen coming across the start-finish line, 25 kilograms of ballast on their car. No improvement on that lap time, but yeah, quite a few drivers opting to come into the pits, maybe for a new fresh set of tyres, maybe to readjust, and then heading straight back out there. And you can see that by some of the lap times coming in. A couple of personal bests for the likes of Josh Woolley, sat there in 7th place, but no improvement seeming on that lap. As we watch Jack Nolan, not on a particularly fast lap it seems, coming over to try and better that lap time of a 1:27.4.
Yeah, a key thing to note with this track, with it, as it is an AC mod, basically only at the moment, there is, like we said earlier, very little information on it. So the setups have all been basically created individually rather than being taken from real life experience. For a circuit like Snetterton we had last week, you can just pop on Google and ask it and go, what setup do I run? And there will be countless pages of people talking about setups, whether that's for real life cars or not is neither here nor there, but there is at least information, there's background, there's existing reference material for our drivers, whereas coming to Lithuania Motorsport Park means they've had to kind of come in blind, which means that yes, we may see more mid-session setup changes, we may see some in this qualifying session, hence why cars are coming into the pits. Here comes Ben Gilroy up to the line, their lap time not looking like the best because it was an outlap, so that would be why it wasn't their best, so they're going to hopefully run it again, get some improvement. We've got some sectors coming in that are improvements on others, but nothing is really lighting up our timing screens like we'd hope it might do as we come into almost the last 5 minutes, but just a little bit over that.
And the track map looking quite busy down there. Wonder how many drivers will be tripping over each other, as certainly Josh Woolley's not. He is extending those track limits all the way to the edge as he comes around the final corner, I believe. It's hard to tell on a track that you've never seen before. And yeah, indeed, that is the final corner, the final 13th corner of this track. No, it's not. Never mind.
No idea where. Yeah, we've got no idea where we are on this circuit. Like we said, there's no videos really that we could watch to learn where the corners are. I just know that the big bottle of oil is near the end of the lap, but not quite at the end of the lap. So that will be my reference point here. Josh Woolley coming through this nice tight right-hander, puts him towards, I believe it is the last 2 pair of hairpins, the potentially dangerous places here. If you're going to get cars going too wide, there is a high chance you may get some light scuffling between the doors. Up to the line, Woolley will run shortly. We've got cars, not really any improvements coming at all on our timing screen. We've got some drivers near the back putting in their first proper competitive lap times. Maybe they haven't even managed to set a clean one yet. Like we said, track limits are a big thing around here, where you can carry that extra speed, you can carry a lot of it, but there is a very fine line that Assetto Corsa will not let you cross. And if you do cross it, your lap time will instantly be disallowed and you should be banished to the shadow realms at the back of the grid, which is what has happened to a few of our back drivers there. Thomas Cannon, Sam Knight, Andrew Mullen and Josh Coulter all not having set a lap time yet, which is not great. But none of those drivers are typically front runners. Sorry to say, it's a bit brutal, but that's a little bit to be expected. Adam Bent, though, he is doing not as excellent as he might hope. He is the organiser of the series. He is the big head honcho in charge of our Assetto Corsa series. We love him dearly, but he's down in 24th place and not showing much signs of improvement, running very deep there into the tight right-hander. So we're going to have to hope for more from him, but his vast experience should allow him to get a few places in the carnage that will be our 2 races later on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gap, the field spread rather, down to Adam Bent is looking like about 4 seconds. So really, this track, as we see a car lovely drifting in the background, by the way. But yeah, the the field spread is quite large, as this is a track that not a lot of people are very familiar with, and I wonder if that's going to catch any drivers out in the race, because as we've seen at Snetterton, it is a much shorter lap, but there were a couple of backmarkers who were potentially getting in the way of some of the lead battles. But again, that remains to be seen, as we see Raul Llagas, I think, coming around the final corner. Doesn't look like it's going to be an improvement though.
Yeah, not like we've said, our drivers are very competent, they're very quick, and they know roughly what lap time they've done. Some of them will do hundreds of laps of practice, so when it gets to qualifying, for a lot of our front runners, they go out there, they do their lap, and that's it. There's no fear, because this is sim racing. You don't have to put in a banker lap in case your car breaks, or in case you have a mechanical failure, or someone else goes off and causes the session to stop. You can push from the opening, which means we do see, well, we have seen pole still stands at the 1:27.4 from Jack Noller of earlier, and that may well be it for the rest of the session. We've got a few green sectors starting to pop up now as we get into the last 2 minutes, but with the sheer amount of cars circulating right now, as you can see there, we've got cars overtaking each other around every single corner, really. Lots of contact as well will not be helping our drivers put in their optimal lap times, which is just going to add to the problem. There's 2 cars on the inside of that corner there as Jack Noller continues around, and what will probably be their penultimate lap. They might have one more go after this one to try and improve, but there is no promise that they even, well, first of all, they will bother, and second of all, that they even need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crowded out there that some of our drivers could potentially just use this as race practice to see what moves stick, see if they can take a little sneaky switch back at turn 10 maybe. But yeah, as you're saying, Dan, doesn't look like to be too many improvements now. There's a few smatterings of personal bests up and down our timing sheet, but a lot of oranges and a lot of reds. So I don't want to say it, I don't want to jinx it, but Jack Noller does look for the moment to be good on this provisional pole.
With Aidan Larson in the pits as well, that is only going to add to the certainty. He's been one of the most competitive drivers. He's the only other driver to get below the 1:27.8 mark, which is not saying much, because Jack Noller got under the 1:27.5. He's at the 1:27.4, basically dead. So he's in the pits. His qualifying is over, as we're seeing drivers come on to either their lap. Well, they are now starting their final lap with the clock well below the threshold to get 2 more in, which means it is now or never for Andrea Ruggi, Ben Gilroy, Raul Llagas and Adam Sparrow, and any drivers further back, if they wish to push forward. Meet the Teacher having their standout performance in qualifying of the year. Not saying much, it's only round 3 and they missed round 2, but they're trying their absolute gosh darn deadly best. Here we have John B, a driver we haven't seen much of this season. They've had to miss odd rounds. They are part of the Penske 2 team. Yes, there are 2 Penske teams. It's like Red Bull and AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso, Visa, Cassiopavi, whatever. John B, very successful driver. He's won a race, but someone who's won more than one race is Jack Noller, who comes up to the line to complete their final lap. They are the first driver to break to break the beam after the timing beams, and there is no improvement for them. Luke Pullen improves their lap time to a 1:28.094. Puts them in 6th place as they cross the line for the final time. Raul Llagas crosses the line. No improvement on the timing screen being shown for them. That is their qualifying over, but P5 still a very, very strong performance. Jake Ansell, missing the last 2 seasons, returned back, but they're a more experienced, more developed driver than they have been in the past as they come up towards the line, weaving, which means their lap time is probably not the optimal one. That means they are going to start the race 1 in 10th place. Jack Noller in the pits, they're qualifying over. Ruggi in the pits. All of our front runners seem to have thrown their gauntlet down, and none of them can once again catch up to Jack Noller's incredible lap time. He sat with 40 minutes on the clock and has just sort of sat there and let it happen.
Yeah, it reminds me of Okayama, when there was that stellar lap put in by Jack Noller. I believe it was somewhere around half a second to the good at the front, and he just went and put his feet up. But yeah, as Alex Hughes comes around the line as one of our final drivers to set this lap time, and really it looks like at the front there's no real surprises. Maybe Raul Llagas getting his season back underway, but yeah, really the top 10 all are familiar faces to us.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces, but that's how it is. Anyone who watches sim racing or real life motorsport knows that your main characters tend to find themselves at the front more often than not, and your championship winners find themselves at the front every single time. We've just got That was our last competitive lap time, I believe, there from Raul Jagas, which means qualifying is all but over. Jack Noller once again takes a stellar pole position with a 1:27.4, 3 3/4 tenths clear of Aidan Larson, then Andrea Ruggi, Raul Jagas, Ben Gilroy and Luke Pullen complete our qualifying for our 2 races. Qualifying sets the grid for race 1, and then the finishing order of race 1 with the reverse grid top 10 sets the grid for race 2. So don't go anywhere. The race will be starting very shortly. The cars and drivers currently getting themselves ready in the pit lane. But I think the first question is, can anyone stop Jack Noller? I'm betting with him. I think the smart bet is to bet with him.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you there. There's a lot of corners where it might be slightly hard to follow through here, and given the lap one carnage that we've seen in the previous 2 rounds, it would be absolutely no surprise if going into turn 1 we have quite a few cars facing the wrong way. And if Jack Noller can, keep his nose clean, get through that carnage, he can, I'm sure, no doubt, build a gap, because if he can pull 4/10 of a second or something to that effect every single lap, he's going to be far gone by the time the 20 minutes of the first race is up.
Definitely. And looking at that middle sector, the first sector is a very fast one. You go into turn 1 quite quick, you come out of it very quick, and you run down to the hairpin at the end of the sector, which leads straight into sector 2, which is a lot more of a wiggly sector. There's a lot more corners going on, which means that following through that wiggly section may prove quite hard, which may give him the break, assuming he can get there on lap 1 clean. We've had red flags at pretty much half, if not 3/4 of the races so far, which means that expect there to be lap 1 incidents, especially with this many cars going into quite a tight angle at turn 1, but it is quite a long run down to it, so they might give the drivers a bit more space. I say a bit more space, not really. There's still going to be something, so keeping at the front, keeping it clean is what gets you wins and definitely what gets you points. If you're one of the drivers further back, maybe you're starting in P20, P25, but you know you've got pace in you, what you need to wait for is you need to wait for that lap 1 crash and then make the time up. You need to get through it like Lightning McQueen in the opening race of cars and come out clean on the other side.
And what I did spot from the first sightings of this track really in qualifying is there does seem to be a lot of runoff. So if you play your cards right, if you find that gap in the carnage, let's say, you could pick your way through quite a few cars. So really not as much runoff as we saw at Snetterton, where you could find yourself in a farmer's field, but here perhaps it's a bottle of antifreeze going into turn 8, but I believe that you can find yourself embedded in. But I'm sure somebody will end up there at some point this race.
I have no doubt about it. This is my 3rd season commentating on this lot, and there's been crashes in every race, so I don't see why this would be any different. We love them dearly. The cars are getting onto the grid now, so we'll be going racing very shortly for this first race, 20 minutes, and then plus 1 lap at the end, just to make it extra spicy. We have that final lap of fun. Expecting big things, 32 cars on the grid. Jack Noller lines up on pole position. A hungry pack behind him, a mix of BUSR regulars, new drivers, returning drivers, and of course those unballasted pair of Meet the Teacher and Raul Jagas should prove they could prove to be the wild cards that we need to really spice up things as we get started very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you stick around and see the spectacle that is Toyota GR86 Cup racing with the BUSR at the Lithuania Motorsport Park. Here we have the cars on the grid. Jack Noller, the McLaren livery. He works for McLaren, so it's hardly a surprise he's running that orange stripes, sitting on pole position quite happily there, ahead of the anime liveried Dress Up Darlings car of Aidan Larson behind. Although the timing says that Aidan's on pole, he's not. He is in second. Don't worry, it's just being a bit funny. And there we go, Andrea Ruggi joining in the grid as well. Yeah, he's in the WRT liveried car. The Italian man proved a highly defensively capable driver at Snetterton, which we may well see return as we go into the last minute of the countdown. Well, we'll see it return in the race. He's not going to do any defending on the grid.
I just wonder if some of the unbalanced cars, like you mentioned, Raul Jagas, Meet the Teacher, can make a bit of a speedy getaway from the start of this race, and maybe trip over some drivers. We saw a lot of tripping over in the first race start, I believe, of the first, or I think it was the second race at Okayama, where everybody really just tripped over themselves going down into turn 1. And especially with this ballast now, that's added a lot a lot more to this equation when it comes to drivers tripping over each other on the first lap. But fingers crossed they all keep it clean. I must say I'd be surprised if we don't have a couple cars round into turn one, but that's the fun of this as the lights are ready to go out. And I believe 5 red lights are extinguished and away we go. Decent start for... Oh, so apologies, you were muted.
No, you've got race start in Lithuania. Jack Noller has the lead. Andrea Ruggi sticking itself behind. They've gained a place on last, and they're almost three wide into turn one. There are many cars wide in the background. There's a lovely drift from someone in the mid-pack. Ruggi gained a place. Aidan Larson now with his teammate Ben Gilroy, who's also got past. There's a car from the gravel on the inside. Meet the Teacher keeping it reasonably clean in 8th place. They're making it through quite nicely. Someone spearing off in the background, not great for them. As we see Sam Knight coming through, there's a lot of cars going through in the background. Sam Knight getting a lot of plays off the start actually there in that 51 Castrol car. One of the Hugheses up against Cassis, I believe that was, at the back end of the top 15. We've got points down to 15, so that does make a massive difference if you can score those points. They're side by side towards the back end of the top 10. That's Meet the Teacher, Archie O'Leary and Summer there at the back of the top 10. They're all forming into a nice little line astern though as we go down the back straight towards one of the many tight hairpin corners here in Lithuania. But Jack Noller leads as we come towards the end of sector 2. But Andrea Ruggi right behind. They're definitely sniffing a move. If they're going to win this race, they need to make it soon and they need to make it decisively.
And Josh Woolley on that opening lap down all the way in 20th place. So really not ideal for one of our BUSR regulars as there's a spin around in the background. I didn't quite catch who that was. It looks like it's Adam Sparrow dropping down the order. That's a painful place to spin. Yeah,
that is their race pretty much ruined. Their target will now be that reverse grid pole position. Lots of cars running really quite wide out of the last corner. There is GR86s all over the road. It's like we've just got a whole bucket of them and thrown them at a ribbon of Lithuanian digital tarmac. Raujak is now having to defend from 2 cars behind. That is the orange Panasonic car of Summer and the black number 88 car of John B behind, although they seem to have sorted themselves out as we come through turns 2, 3 and 4. Hard on the brakes there, the car almost pitching itself onto 3 wheels due to the nature of the suspension setup there. We've got a car going up the inside, that's Archie O'Leary going up the inside of Zalia there. They're trying to recover from some earlier mishaps, not where we expect them to be due to their pretty stellar pace in past performances, and I'm sure we'll see them improve further up the grid as the race goes on. There he is in that Liverpool liveried car, now chasing down Kessus in the alien themed car ahead of them as we come down this back straight past the big bottle of screen wash, which shall become our marker point as commentators that we are already near the end of lap 2. We've already had 3 minutes, and so far it's actually been very good racing.
Yeah, indeed. I wonder if that's just down to the nature, the flow of this first sector. It's not as tight and technical as it was at Snetterton, as it was at Okayama, and it really forces the cars to, not go too wide because it loses you quite a lot of time. But yeah, the big losers from that first couple laps, you look at Raujagas down from P4, I believe it was, down to P8, but equally in the other direction, Jake Ansell, Meet the Teacher, up to P5 and P6. Brilliant race for them both so far. Yeah,
they're definitely performing as we hoped they would, given their lack of ballast, really taking it to our leaders, showing you what the ballast can do. But Jack Noller, even with that 50 kilos, and Andrea Ruggi with the 35, still proving themselves to be the dominant force at the front of the field. They've shown themselves to be championship contenders. As we see, there's a lot of action going on all the way up and down the grid. I believe that's Owen Goldsmith in the number 11 car, making a move on the very brightly headlighted car behind them. Owen well out of position down in 22nd. Must have been an instant for them. They were literally last season's green class champion, so they definitely know they can perform better than that, but so far they're really quite struggling, it would seem, both with this car and with this race. Alumni champion down in 20-something definitely feels like they're out of position, chasing down Igor Vlasivlev and Adam Sparrow ahead. Adam, another car out of position, you have to think, given his success at Snetterton. But for now, the race is is still led by Noller, but there's a car at the inside. Oh, there's contact between the two of them. That is the number 24 car, I believe that is Josh Woolley, trying to make a move up the inside of the number 12, Alex Hughes. Those two have had their fair share of tussling in the past, but Wooly makes it through up the inside on the penultimate corner to cleanly make his way up another place. Terrible start for him, put him well outside of really the top 5 where he needs to be if he wants to mount a serious challenge for the title. Going forward as Luke Pullen makes a move on Raul Llagas. They've now split those two job well done cars, different liveries, but they are teammates, the light blue and the purple there. Nose to tail contact, I believe that was between Meet the Teacher and Pullen, and we've got weaving behind the Summer is getting involved in this one as well. They're now looking up the inside with a very nice drift. Are they going to make it a move through? Yes, they are. They've taken the place. Excellent move from Summer, takes them up to 6th place. Twitch from Luke Pullen puts them down behind Meet the Teacher. Raul Llagas is going to have the run on them around the outside of the next corner, which turns into the inside as we come through this very tight right-hander onto one of our longer straights here. Not the longest, but definitely one of the longer ones. There was contact between the two of Llagas and Pullen there, but both cars still pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, and really a lot of these moves are being made by the looks of it to sort out some of the position switching that was happening at the beginning, because there's a couple of trains forming now, and I noted that it was Jake Ansel, I believe, and Alex Hughes who are holding up the P5 train and P12 train, as we saw Josh Woolley get past Hughes to essentially catch up to the next train, which is the battle that we're seeing at the minute. But quite a lot of interesting spins happening around these quite long corners where you're asking a lot of these tyres, and the slightest nudge, the slightest bit of contact on the rear is looking to send a lot of these cars round. So I wonder what the stewards are going to make of these tiny bits of contact that appear to have really race deciding impacts.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be busy. We had lots of reports of impeding come through in qualifying, so I'm sure we'll see lots of reports of contact and fighting throughout the race, but I'm sure the stewards will love to sort through in their free time. Of course, everyone here is a volunteer, which means that they do it for the love of the game, the love of the sport, and just sheer grit and determination to make this championship work, and we thank them for their efforts, and I'm sure they're going to make a lot of efforts after today. And we've got Meet the Teacher still holding on to that 8th place. They qualified well, they've got no ballast, they're in a good place with their teammate Raul Llagas just up ahead of them, which means they should hopefully work together as they really know how to make moves further forward, to make up time on the cars ahead and hopefully gain some more points for their team.
And Ben Gilroy here closed up over the last few laps to Andrea Ruggi for this battle for 2nd place. And really, Jack Noller's not disappeared off into the distance as we expected. That's not to say that 2 seconds is a pretty sizable margin, as we are less than halfway into this race. But really, Andrea Ruggi will have their mirrors full of Ben Gilroy, chasing down into turn 1 as we enter 12 minutes remaining of this race. And if Ben Gilroy's position here is to get past Andrea Ruggi and chase onto the back of Jack Noller, you'd think that they'd need to get this move done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely. The race clock is ticking down. Some gaps are starting to form, notably there's a couple of them starting to form in the 2 and a bit second range. Andrea Ruggi losing time to Jack Noller as we thought that he might. Larson seems to be losing time, as does Jake Ansel, as does Summer. There are gaps forming all over the place, so if you want to catch up to the car ahead, you need to get past fast, and Ben Gilroy will know that more than most. They're side by side between Woolley and Dystopian. Dystopian was our student class champion last year with only a single digit number of points ahead of Josh Woolley. So these guys have got beef. Dystopian's gone very wide there. Woolley goes sailing through, easy overtake, basically just Dystopian made a mistake on their own, got out of the way and allowed Woolley through to make the move. They are now chasing after Luke Pullen ahead on Josh Woolley, proving himself to be the ferociously quick driver that we know he can be. Never got that championship, it's always eluded him, but if he's going to win it this year, he needs to score points as regularly as possible.
Yeah, Josh Woolley catching up to this train now, which really stretches all the way up to P5. Jake Ansel, who's dropped a couple seconds down to Aidan Larson in 4th place. And something that this track seems to have brought out is a lot of this kind of train mentality, where maybe if you get out of position, if you make that car wide, I know a lot of our drivers are fans of making their cars as wide as possible. Kessers comes to mind from the last couple of rounds, but yeah, if you can make that car as wide as possible, to me it seems like there's very limited opportunities around this track to overtake, unless you, of course, want to nudge the driver in front of you into a little spin with the risk of maybe a post-race penalty.
Yeah, you have to weigh up the size of the penalty versus the size of time you're losing in some circumstances. It's not that we'd ever encourage push to pass or punt to pass here at the BUSR, but it does happen sometimes. Luke Pullen there just rubbing their nose up the back end of John B's Toyota. Very, very close there as they come through. There's gaps forming. There is definite gaps forming, which we thought there might be, given the highly twisty nature of this circuit. So it's not looking great, which means that going forward, the drivers will know they have to start pushing and overtaking even more aggressively if they want to make it past Luke Pullen, now being stuck behind John for quite a while now, relative to the length of a 20-minute sprint race in a sim game. But they need to make that move stick if they're going to get it through, much like Ben Gilroy, who is the closest we've seen him all race now, under 0.3 of a second, close enough to be on the 0.2 of a second there at its peak. There's a slide for Ruggi that's going to compromise their run down towards the next corner. Ben Gilroy has the inside line but backs out of it very wisely to avoid a crash. They're going to score a podium if they keep it all together, regardless whether it's second or third, and they do not want to throw away those points for themselves or for their team. Up the inside they go, though, on the switchback. That is second place clean. Oh, there's contact, and Ben Gilroy has been spun round. Andrea Ruggi, though, is waiting, which is very kind of them, but that does allow Aidan Larson through. I mean, very kind of Andrea Ruggi, very gentlemanly racing to allow Ben Gilroy the position. Knew he made a mistake, so let Gilroy through. But that means that Larson is the big benefactor in that, who has just suddenly gained 2 places as the cars ahead crash. But that does mean that the gap to the leader is now 5.5 seconds. Jack Noller is proving once again why they are the dominant force here and have been all season long. They won race 1, they got a podium in race 2, they came just off the podium in race 3, and then a podium in race 4. That is a stunning set of results, and they are well clear of second place driver Aidan Larson, who they are still going to gain more points on in this race if nothing changes. Their best lap time is clear of Aidan as well, so the fastest lap point will be going his way. His fast lap was actually a 1:27.3, which is faster than he did in qualifying.
Yeah, and really that speaks volumes. 0.3 is the next fastest lap time from Andrea Ruggi. Sorry, Ben Gilroy. Apologies there. But yeah, what that does is that closes Jake Ansell up to this battle for a podium position. Potentially, didn't have the best of qualifying, I believe, and so has found their way up to the top 5 and actually runs as our top driver, who has 0 kilograms of ballast. So I wonder if they can use that to their advantage to catch these 2 in front of them and potentially make their way onto the podium.
Yes, they are definitely going to be something to consider. There's side-by-side action towards the back end of the top 10. Pullen and John B getting together. Only a minor little bump, but that does push Luke Pullen through. But the big benefactor in all of this is one of our season stars, Josh Woolley, in the number 24 car there. He is fighting his way back from a dismal race start, got caught up in some messy business, shall we call it. Now runs side by side with John B down the long back straight towards the nice and tight hairpin there before we get into our double hairpin section to finish off the lap. They're trying to make as many places as they can, but they're just not quite get there past John B yet. Maybe Josh Woolley, however, will decide to just take the reverse grid pole position. 10th place will start race 2 on pole, but with 6 minutes to go, Josh Woolley's probably going to think about the points that he can claim by going higher up now than he would do by sitting in 10th.
And Ben Gilroy, now in 3rd place, is becoming the front locomotive of this train, which goes all the way back to really meet the teacher down in 8th place. Everybody keeping within a couple seconds of each other, as that's, I believe, Summer around at, I can't quite tell which corner that was, but they're all the same. They're all these long sloping left and right handers, so I wonder if they got a tap round there, but falling out of the top 10, and really they have to keep a hold of this position so that they can get this reverse grid pole. But Josh Woolley crucially has snatched it off them and looks to be set with 5 minutes left to be on pole position for the reverse grid race, but of course a lot can still happen.
Willie being the gainer once again of other people's carnage. We said it in our pre-race discussion that one of the keys, not just to the BUSR, but specifically to this circuit, is to just keep it clean. We've got a massive grid, 32 cars. We could not be happier at the BUSR that we've got this strong of an entry list to our series, but just keeping it clean will score you points if you are even remotely near the front. If you're 4 or 5 seconds off the pace, keeping it clean is not going to make much difference. But if you're within a second of the pace, keeping it clean, you will score more points than you would do by being brave and stupid and making overtakes. We have a lapped car there, just getting themselves nicely out of the way, letting our leaders, well, I'll say our leaders, these are back into the top 10 through, which now means that Wooly is free once again to resume his chase for John B and Luke Pullen up ahead, who continue their battle for what is now 8th place. It's a ferocious one. Summer will be looking to get back into the top 10. They know that there is a reverse grid pole position just one car ahead of them, which is a great motivator for a driver to make a move, especially towards the end of race one when they might be getting a little bit more desperate. They're learning how the cars work at this circuit. Here we go, Wooly making his move up the inside. John B running it very, very deep there. Wooly being very respectful, giving them lots of space, but he is through up into 9th place. We know Wooly can do more than this in terms of overall finishing position when it's kept clean. This is a great recovery drive from him. We'll have to see if he can make any more moves, catch up to meet the teacher, who is not that far up the road. He can already see him, which is good enough for Wooly, I have to think, to make the move on him to get 8th place and then continue his charge forward. But with only 4 minutes left of the clock, time is starting to run out.
And yeah, Raujagus the cork in this bottle of cars from behind. Really, there's a chance here for them to all trip up over one another, as Andrea Ruggi there, within 0.4 of a second on Ben Gilroy. Are they going to go for round 2 again? Well, you've got Jake Ansell sat pretty in 5th place. Maybe they will be the referee in this battle. Not looking to get involved, maybe just looking to swoop through and get that 3rd place if any contact does happen, which we've seen it once already this race. You wouldn't put it past them to happen again. But yeah, under half a second now. This will be for the podium position because Aidan Larson 4 seconds in front and he is out the question, and Jack Noller clearly 6 seconds to the good out in front. We've barely spoken about him yet again, so really no challenge there for the top spot.
Yeah, this is our fight most definitely for the final slot on the podium. We've got the Italian between the 2 Englishmen, Ben Gilroy, Andrea Ruggi and Jake Ansell. All of them have proven themselves at various points in their BUSR career. All of them have scored points and podiums and even race wins for some of them in the various series. We've seen them running as they all know what they're doing. They're all perfectly competent racers in their own right, hence why they're at the front and hence why they are so far clear of the Raujagus train behind them. But you have to think that if they get messy, then whichever 2 of them collide are just going to hand that P3 to the other car in this trio, unless they catch them all out, in which case I suppose Raujagus will sweep through valiantly to take a podium while holding up basically the entire mid-pack of the grid. You can see on the track map there on the left-hand side the monster gap between all the cars, which just shows you quite how big that train is.
And what were we saying about keeping it clean? Well, Jake Ansell, fastest lap 28.4, battling with 2 cars in front whose lap times are nearly an entire second, their best lap times anyway, are nearly an entire second to the good. So yeah, really reflects what we said at the start of the race, that if you keep your nose clean, you could potentially get a great result, even a podium. So let's see what Jake Ansell can do. Dropped a little bit of time here, but there's still ample opportunity for Ben Gilroy and Andrea Ruggi to bring them back into the battle.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance if they keep messing around. Lap times will naturally drop. As you can see, that Jack Noller's running in the high 27s, Aidan Larson in the mid 28s, but the cars behind him, Gilroy, Ruggi, Ansell running in the high 28s, which is all about a second off of their optimal pace, and they will know this. They will have it on their telemetry. They'll have it in the back of their minds that if we keep bickering, we're going to lose out. They're side by side up front. Never mind, that was just a little bit of wiggly lines from the cars in front. Ansell has had a few seasons away from AC, but has definitely proved their worth. We're into the last minute, which means you've got, I think it'll be this lap and then one more, because of course we have that +1 lap at the end, will mean that It's not 1 lap to go, it is 2 laps to go for our drivers. 6.6 kilometers in total, 3.3 kilometers per lap, of course. 13 wiggly Lithuanian digital turns stands between Jack Noller and weirdly only his second race win of the year. It sounds insane, but he's got all 3 pole positions, 2 podiums, a 4th place and a race win. But again, you know, he's had some difficulty with carnage, shall we call it, to put it politely. So we'll have to see if obviously he's very much in the pound seats to win this one, as we see the battle raging on there, the drivers pushing their cars to the absolute limit as the clock ticks down its last few seconds of breath. We will get 1 more lap after the clock, which will be confirmed by the timing. There we go, 2 laps to go for the leader, fully confirmed now. This is it. This is where you've got to start thinking, right, where can I make the move? Not where would it be easy to, just where can I? Where is my option? Not my options, my last resort. If I'm going to make this move for this podium, I need to make it now. And that will be going through the minds of all of the drivers within a second, whether that's Rudy or Ansel watching behind, or whether it's Pullen or Meet the Teacher or Josh Woolley, all chasing each other down at the back end of the top 10. And then John B holding on for that reverse grid pole position with Summer just behind them. They'll all be thinking, I need to make this stick. If I'm in the defensive position, where can I put my car to be annoying? If I'm attacking, where can I put it to make the move? As the leader is now on the final lap, Jack Noller starts the final tour of race 1 at Lithuania Motorsport Park. Aidan Larson very much out of the question for a race win disregarding incident, but Jack Noller's been pretty flawless so far, so I think it's safe to say that he is safe at the front. Josh Woolley, though, one driver still looking to make places. Meet the Teacher up ahead. Crucial point. There's contact. We cut back to between it. The battle already engaged. The side by side there was up the inside for Rudy and Gilroy. There was side to side contact between the two of them. There's contact. There's not contact, but there's close racing between the teammates of Rayagas and Meet the Teacher. It's all happening on the last lap. Josh Woolley there hunting them down with precision and aggression that we know he's capable of. He's looking for the move in the mini box. We can see Gilroy and Rudy. Rudy can't quite make the move, but Woolley can. Up the inside of Yagas, just push him ever so slightly wide. Not off the circuit. That was, I believe, a perfectly legal move, but that's at the steward's discretion. As Rudy and Gilroy keep it clean on their side of the circuit, but Woolley up to 8th place at the end of what is a stunning recovery drive from him. He's got Meet the Teacher up ahead, which is probably a little bit far, but they're side by side for 4th place as we come towards the end of the lap. Jack Noller's got only 2 corners to go. Aidan Larson's only got 2 as well, but these guys have a few more chances to make a move or make a mistake. But Ansel appears to be going around the outside of Rudy on the mini box there. There's action going on all up and down the grid as the BUSR knows and loves and is perfect at providing. And Jack Noller crosses the line off camera, and I don't blame it for not showing it. He is your race winner for round 5 of the season at Lithuania Motorsport Park. Aidan Larson will bring it home in a relatively calm and easy P2. And 3rd place across the line is going to be Ben Gilroy, who held off Andrea Rudy and Jake Ansel to take that lovely podium position. We've got more cars streaming across the line now. Luke Pullen holds on to 6th. Meet the Teacher can resist the wave of Woolley, who comes over in 8th. Rayagas lost out on the last lap to come 9th. John B 10th, who takes your reverse grid pole position. But that is the end of race 5, round 5 of the season for most of your cars. But Jack Noller with another dominant victory.
Yeah, they really left it to the final lap there to give us some up and down the grid entertainment there. But yeah, really, that final lap, you saw Ben Gilroy putting that pressure on Andrea Rudy in your little mini box there every single corner, and Jake Ansel crucially so close to taking advantage of that and getting up into 4th place, but nothing doing this time by. And one has to say that it's a pretty comfortable win for Jack Noller out in front.
Yeah, dominant form from the dominant driver of the season so far. He came in with lots of experience of real-world racing, and that shows as the rest of the cars crossed the grid. We've got Summer came across in 11th, Dystopin in not an excellent but certainly a sufficient 12th. Adam Sparrow with a lot of ballast came over in 13th. Alex Hughes 14th. Cassius scored the final point. Owen Goldsmith's really struggling this week in 16th, and Jordan Pinnock, another driver who struggled with contact, I know, early on in 7th. 17th, then Zalia, Badgerman, and then GT Nismo, Archie O'Leary, Igor Vlasivlev, Bailey, Thomas Hughes, Adam Bent-Cirk, Sam Knight, Mullen, Lucas Vanderberg, Darcy, Justin, Coulter, and then Thomas Cannon bringing up the rear. There are definitely some issues for those back drivers. They were many laps down. But yes, that is the end of round one. We've got another race coming up shortly once the drivers stop mucking around in the gravel at the end of the circuit and return to pit so we can get started on that. But before then, a quick word from our sponsor, Grid Finder. There you go, Grid Finder, our proud series sponsor of BUSR. They've been with us now for a number of seasons, and if you want to get involved in the BUSR, we run multiple championships, Formula 1 on a Saturday being our headliner, and then AC, the real favourite, on a Monday, and LMU on a Wednesday. And we'd love to have you involved, whether that's as a driver, as a race organiser, producer, on our broadcast. You can join us in the commentary booth. Whatever it is, there's a place for you in the BUSR. But we've still got one more race to go, round number 6 of the season at Lithuania Motorsport Park coming up shortly. John B will be on reverse grid pole. Jack Noller will be down in 10th in amongst the melee that I'm sure will be at the start of this race very shortly.
Yeah, considering what we saw in that first race, how difficult it was to remain side by side between all of our drivers. They were all basically single file at the end of the first lap. So this being a reverse grid race with quite a lot of drivers out of position, I would be really interested to see how many drivers are going to force 2, maybe 3 wide throughout the first sector of this lap. Of course, a very wiggly track. This is only two proper straights really on this entire circuit. So can Jack Noller sweep to another race victory? Well, that remains to be seen in just a moment's time.
Yes, it definitely does. And the easiness with which he would take that win will become very certain by the end of lap 1. If he's sort of anywhere inside the top 10, even the top, well, maybe the top 8, and definitely if he's inside the top 6, then you've got to think he is the best placed driver to do so. But if he gets caught up in some of the accidents, some of the rough and tumble racing we see in the mid-pack, then he may well drop back into the clutches of sort of P15 and down, get bogged down in traffic. Maybe he'll have a spin or two, he'll struggle, and he may not win it. So we may see a back-to-back. We don't see many back-to-back wins in the BUSR thanks to our reverse grid, but it's entirely likely that if he can get a clean start today, that we will see one.
Yeah, and another driver to mention for this second race is Josh Woolley starting in 3rd place. Obviously, we saw he had a little bit of an issue on that first lap of race 1, dropping all the way down to 20th place, I believe. So he starts 3rd now. If he can dispatch John B and Raul Yagas in 1st and 2nd place, then maybe he can do what Jack Noller did in the first race and build that big gap. But of course, we still have to remember the ballast is applied. And Josh Woolley is the only one in the top 4 drivers of this race with ballast and 40 kilograms at that, which is quite a hefty amount.
Yeah, it's definitely a hefty amount. Here we go. John B, part of that Team Bensky team, a well-known outfit in the BUSR. They run multiple cars on 2 different teams. He is starting on pole position, I believe, possibly for the first time. Definitely not a place where he's normally found. And then we have the number 343 car of Ben Gilroy much further down the grid that you can see the front 8 cars ahead of him because, of course, this is the reverse grid. He starts behind Andrea Ruggi, which means he'll have to overtake him once more and then put in a valiant defence if he wishes to take more points away from the Italian. But it is John B that will lead the grid away for round 6 of the season at Lithuania Motorsport Park, race 2 of the day. John B on pole ahead of Raul Yagas for the race. There's lights on, rock and roll, let's go racing in Lithuania. It is a really good start for John B, who bolts clear of Raul Yagas, but it is a long run down to turn 1, so anything can happen with your gear shifts. They're 4 wide in the background, but the front appears to be reasonably clean. There's Meet the Teacher. He's got cars all around him. Andrea Ruggi looking up the inside. Let's see if we can pick out any incident. There's a spin right at the back, but that was all on their own. They're not going to get in the way of anybody. Andrea Ruggi trying to go around the outside and Meet the Teacher. We've got Jake Ansell also in the fight there. They're all trying to make moves on cars that they're all, because of course they're all out of position. Meet the Teacher getting the cutback though, putting in a valiant defence against Ruggi. Jack Noller though, he's the driver we're focusing on realistically for that potential race win. They're the one that's going to have to come through the grid. They've not made up any places. They're still at the back of the top 10 with Aiden Larson, but crucially, they've not lost any either.
Yep, as we saw in the first race with Jake Ansell, keeping it clean would get you a decent position. So with Jack Noller's pace, really all that he needs to do is keep his nose clean, as I don't want to jinx it, but looks like we've avoided the red flag for the first time this season on the opening lap of the race, as you know, really a lot of the drivers well behaved, a couple of spins, couple of cars facing the wrong way, but all in all, pretty decent start from our drivers out there.
Exactly what we like to see. We've got side-by-side action as Jack Noller and Aidan Larson trying to carve their way past Jake Ansell, a quick driver normally, but compared to Noller and Aidan, basically standstill. That's probably a little bit harsh on Jake Ansell. He put up a valiant defence there, but Josh Woolley leads the pack at the end of lap 1 on our timing screens, which means he has had the lightning start we hoped he would do. Well, at least from a championship perspective, we hoped he would do. Luke Pullen falls into second place, and then John B only lost a couple of places, which is really good. Raul Llagas there with a big slide out of the first major corner, and that puts them well down the order. They are now falling right back into the clutches of Adam Sparrow and Jack Noller towards the back end of the top 10. They started right at the front, but they've already fallen down due to that mistake because the pack is so close. Oh, they've lost it again. Those tyres going to be very, very toasty now, which is not optimal for racing potential. There's a car spearing off into the side there. No idea who that was, but they are long gone, assuming that was genuine. There's contact between two of the cars there. We've got a spin for that Aidan Larson and Raul Llagas getting caught up. There was contact at the back end of the top 10. Both of their races deeply, deeply unhappy by that little inci bump. Puts them really sort of in the mid, but top back 15, maybe even close to 20th place there. But Jack Noller has kept their nose clean, kept themselves moving forward. They are now up to 8th place and chasing down Adam Sparrow.
And just as we saw in race 1, it looks like Andrea Ruggi has become the cork in this fizzy bottle of GR86s, all looking to get past at some point in this race. As you see, John B pestering the rear, but pretty valiant defence being put up by Ruggi so far. And what that will allow to happen is for Luke Pullen to just hang on to the back of Josh Woolley out in front, as we see some door banging going into turn 1. My, that was a bit aggressive there.
Yes, we do have stewards that will review this post-race. No penalties applied in race. We do not have the capacity for live stewarding here with this many cars, and also all of our stewards being drivers. That would be really quite hard for them to multitask. John B, though, holding on valiantly to that position. They've got one car slip. The train is starting to break. You have to think that this is a matter of if not when the train will explode. We've got some internet issues in the background there. That is not a car spearing off wildly into the dust. But there is lots of action going on as John B tries to hold off on Meet the Teacher and Summer, and then Sparrow, Noller and Ansell, and then Goldsmith with an excellent recovery drive after their less than optimal race 1.
And further down the order, Raul Llagas' race goes from bad to worse, down in P29 now behind Ben Gilroy, another who suffered on the opening laps of this race. So really some of our drivers who would, I think, wish that the checkered flag could come pretty soon, come in 2 laps time really, and they could forget all about this. But yeah, out in front, Josh Woolley, Luke Pullen, but Andrea Ruggi closing that gap a little bit to just under 1 second, and it now becomes John B who is taken over from him as the leader of this train.
Yes, they're definitely. Some drivers will be out there wishing the race would be over. Some wish they could restart it and go again, particularly our big losers, Aidan Larson and Raul Llagas. Andrea Ruggi, though, putting in the fastest lap of the race, shows they've got the pace to catch Pullen and Woolley up ahead. We've got side by side between Sparrow and I think that was Jack Noller and Ansell all crossed up and in between each other with Summer. They're going to sort themselves out, and Noller finds his way through. Lovely, clean, clinical, professional overtake. Puts him into P6. That's a lovely move from him, and exactly what he needs. His main championship rival, Aidan Larson, is out of the picture really. They're down in 14th place. There is pitiful points down there. 6 to go. He is going to be thinking, how can I catch up to the race leaders? His pace is strong, but he's been caught in traffic, so we can expect it to get even stronger as we go forwards.
Yep, and he is, I believe, one of our top 5 quickest drivers out on track that last lap by, and remember, he was in the midst of battling as well. So yeah, really looks like he can bring it to the top pack of Woolley, Pullen, Ruggi, John B, and most imminently Meet the Teacher, who sits in that 5th position spot. If he can get past Meet the Teacher, then it's half a second out in front to John B, and then it's sort of like car hopping as we saw in the first couple of rounds. Jack Noller being kind of somewhat shunted down the order and having to pass one car, gain a couple seconds, pass another car, gain a couple more seconds. We know he can do it. We know he's capable of it. Can he replicate that here in Lithuania?
We've definitely seen potential from him to do so already. He's gained 4 places since his reverse grid 10th place start, but he's not yet managed to find his way up into the top 5. The clock is counting down. He knows that. He's very aware of that. He's a real world racer. He's raced in Master MX-5s across the United Kingdom, so he knows what he's doing. He's a McLaren employee and sort of development driver, test driver within their sim rig. This is basically his day job, only he's normally driving McLarens, not hopped up Toyotas around Lithuania Motorsport Park. And what a wonderful track it's been so far. Lots of twisty turners, lots of challenge, and new to basically everybody here, which means that it is an excellent place to see the raw pace these drivers have when there is no pre-existing experience, as Jack Noller tries to make a move on Meet the Teacher, who at the same time tries to make a move on John B, and that is allowing other drivers, including Adam Sparrow, to have a look up there, seeing if they can make a move on Jack Noller around the outside. They attempt to go. They're side by side, the two orange cars, the black and orange and the white and orange. They're now running against door to door down towards the left-hander underneath the Leicester banners. As they try to go around the outside once again into the penultimate corner there as your pit entry, and then onto the final straight. They will now turn there. Watch out for track limits on your left hand side. It is very tempting to run very wide. You can see the cars making the most of it. There's definitely a train forming there. Woolley and Luke pulling ahead, and then Ruji closing in, and then John B and everybody else sort of bunched up behind him into these little battle packs, you might want to call them. There's nearly contact between Meet the Teacher. There was contact on our timing between Meet the Teacher and John B, which means Noller has found his way up into 5th place.
And up into 4th place it might well be soon. Indeed, at the next corner, as that's a very deep lunge from, I believe, Meet the Teacher there, going up the inside. But yeah, that's released Jack Noller. The gap in front is 6 seconds, and I am expecting some purple laps here, to be honest. I'd expect nothing more from Jack Noller, McLaren development driver, or test car development driver, as we spoke about before. Not F1 yet, but who knows? Maybe Zach Brown would be watching this race. Highly doubt it, but hi Zach if you're watching. So yeah, meet the Teacher then down into 5th place, becoming the new locomotive for this train, going all the way down to Owen Goldsmith in 11th place. In 10th place, sorry.
Yeah. And there's even a second train forming behind one of the Hugheses, with a little pair in between them. So like we said earlier on in race 1, and we noticed it's a hard track to pass around unless you're feeling particularly brave, which, you know, it's the BUSR. There's always a little bit of bravery or stupidity, depends how successful you are. There we go. You see the leaders already making their breakaway. That is the podium fight up ahead. But Jack Noller now in 4th place on our timing sheet. They've got past Meet the Teacher on circuit, as you can see there, which means they're now going to have to go and bridge that gap. That was a purple final sector from Noller. Just showing you the pace he's got. He was a 10th faster than Ruji, 2 tenths faster than Pullen, and a tenth and a half faster than Woolley. So he's closing up. That's fair to say. His last lap time was not completely better than theirs because of sector 1 and 2, but now that he is running in clean air, I have no doubt that we will see the better of him. Just as I say that, he's gone purple in sector 1 as well, and closed up massively the gap at 5.8 seconds though. So he's still got a big gap. He's got 5 seconds to catch in 10 minutes if he wants to get a podium or possibly even a race win. We said he needs to be in the top 5 as early as possible. He's now in the top 4 as we are just tick towards the halfway mark. There it is.
And Josh Woolley out in front, really not pulling away in the manner that I expected him to be honest. And as well, Luke Pullen and Andrea Ruggi keeping him keen. And really, yeah, Andrea Ruggi, that was a couple of, let's say, interesting opening laps for him. And the fact that he's caught back up to this pair in front shows that maybe Woolley isn't pushing as hard as we expected. Maybe he's just saving the tyres for the end of the race there. But someone who definitely is pushing is Andrea Ruggi, fastest lap of the race right there, as Jack Noller again beats that lap time, doing a 27.5, gaining on the leaders by the best part of a second really. So I think he will need more than a second a lap, to be honest, to catch up to this gaggle in front, but you wouldn't put it past them to get involved in a few skirmishes to slow themselves down a little bit and bring Jack Noller right back into this fight.
definitely. They need to keep pushing. Detnol needs to push. He needs to push hard if he wants to catch up to the cars ahead. As we're starting to see some of the lap times coming in now. His lap time was a 1:27.5. The cars ahead were all slower, but not really by the margin that he'd be hoping for if he wants to catch them as soon as possible. He's got to make 3 overtakes. Well, that's how maths works. If he wants to win, but Meet the Teacher appears to be going with him. The train is slightly disassembling itself, which is it's pretty rare in racing. Once you see them form, they tend to stay pretty solid for quite a while unless the cork is removed. But Meet the Teacher seems to have uncorked himself, as we see nose to tail very close between John B and Jay Council. These guys towards the back end of the top 10 scoring solid points for their championship hopes. Aidan Larson, the big driver that lost out at the start, he is up to 10th place. No reverse grid pole position for him here, but there would be a nice haul of points if he could keep it on the black stuff and get further towards this battle pack of train up ahead, which his lap times would imply there's potential for, but definitely no guarantee.
And I believe off screen on that final, on that last lap, there was some contact between Ruji and Pullen. They've just dropped back away from Josh Woolley a little bit and even put some distance between themselves. Ruji doesn't really seem to have missed out as they've closed back within a second of Woolley in first place, but Luke Pullen maybe left slightly bruised by that contact. 1.6 seconds away now, so makes it all the easier for Jack Noller, but a bit disappointing there for Luke Pullen. I wonder what happened there. I wonder if there was contact, and if so, what the stewards will make of that.
Yeah, I'm sure the stewards are harsh but fair, as you would hope from any sporting adjudication, methoding, people-y things. Past the big screen wash bottle they go, which is basically the only landmark we have around this rather unfamiliar sim racing circuit. But there we go. There is very, very close nose to tail driving from Woolley and Ruji. The gap under a quarter of a second at some points. The feisty Italian driver has put in some incredible drives, but mainly of the defensive nature. They've never quite had that killer edge on overtaking yet, which I'm hoping Woolley is aware of, so that he knows that if Ruji gets past, that's probably it, unless he can make a move very quickly. New personal best for Pullen, who's dropped back and just putting in a nice lap time. Noller still going as quick as he possibly can, really, to make as much ground up as possible. The gap down to 3.2-ish between those two, but Ruji now very much up behind Josh Woolley. We're following the Italian now as he tries to see where he can make a move. There's definitely going to be a lot of heat in the tyres, a lot of heat in the room for the drivers. It's a warm day in the UK here. Not sure what it's like in other countries if we do have drivers joining us from other places, but right now the car's going to be getting warm, the tyre's going to be getting warm. It's a high speed, lots of cornery kind of circuit. Ruji sticks the nose at the inside and not really any room there for him. Backs down as they form into the slipstream. Down the nice big back straight we go.
And of course that allows Luke Pullen to close right back up. Maybe go for round 2 with Andrea Ruji, as that's a big slide out there of one of the corners on this track, as we see the massive screen wash bottle in the background, so it must be near the end of the lap. But yeah, Josh Woolley has to make that GR86 as big as he possibly can, because as we've seen in the past, Ruji, an incredibly fast driver, is not going to take no for an answer when there's the prospect of a race win. But he has bigger issues to deal with right now as Luke Pullen closes up on the start finish straight and down into turn 1. They are side by side, door to door, wing mirror to wing mirror, and that's a pretty staunch defense down the inside. Can Luke Pullen play it around the outside? Unfortunately not, but plenty of battling as we clock down to under 5 minutes left of this race.
Just a word on our championship leader, Jack Noller. His last lap time was the only lap time in the 27s in the entire grid on that last lap, so he is gaining on everybody, but particularly the cars ahead of him. Some of whom are in the 29s due to their fighting and bickering, back marker getting out of the way for our leading trio there. Don't worry about that car. But Ruji now in when a race car driver's worst nightmare. They're in a sandwich of speed. They've got the faster car ahead and the slower car. Well, they've got a fast car ahead of them, a fast car behind them. They've got to think, do I overtake Do I defend? What do I do? He's making the move up the inside though. There's door banging. He's pushing them wide, and look at that. Luke Pullum, the leaders. This is the fight for the lead. They're 3 wide. Josh Woolley been shuffled right the way down. The stewards might not look too favourable on that. Lots of contact between all 3 cars. Ruggi takes the lead of round 6 here at Lithuania Motorsport Park. This says round 3 on the board, but ignore that because anyway. But they're very, very close. Ruggi up into the lead. Luke Pullum in second. Josh Woolley now in 3rd place. That was definitely one of the moves of all time, as there's a back marker going very, very wide in the front there. Hopefully they'll get out of the way nice and smoothly.
One of the moves of all time. I could not have said that better myself. But Jack Noller will be rubbing his hands at the prospect of this battle as back marker getting in the way there on the apex curb. Tried to get out of the way as best as possible, but maybe tripping up some of our top 3, and that gap has come down under 2 seconds now. Jack Noller, to the best part of a second and a half quicker than Josh Woolley on that last lap, so looking to close right in, gain some of that slipstream as we approach probably the final 3 or 4 laps of this race.
Yes, just a word. This would be Andrea Ruggi's best ever finish in the BUSR if he came in first, or even in second. A podium and a very strong set of results for him. So he is fighting for a maiden BUSR victory. Woolley fighting for just another one, just another feather in his racing cap. We haven't got much information on Pullum at our disposal, so I shan't comment for fear of getting it wrong. But look who that is behind them. It's the papaya menace of Jack Noller. His last lap time at 28.5. The cars ahead, all in the 29s or the 30s. He's closing in. The gap now under 2 seconds. Now Josh Woolley needs to start worrying about the car behind and the rate at which he is closing in.
Yep, absolutely there, as tow is effective basically from around about a second back, so Jack Noller can hook onto that tow from Josh Woolley in 3rd place and just hang on to it. Should be dragged towards the front of the grid as there's another back marker there trying to just dodge out of the way, as that's slowed, I believe that's Josh Woolley down a little bit. But yeah, you can see there Jack Noller trying to navigate past that back marker, and you can see approaching his car, coming closer is Josh Woolley. And this is going to be last lap stuff, as we saw in race 1, as we didn't see at the F1 at Silverstone. We are not the FIA around here. We will not deny you this grandstand finish, which we will be expecting in just a minute's time.
Yes, as we count our way down towards the end, there is that +1 lap to remember. So when the clock hits 0, there will still be more racing to go, and we will get the grandstand finish that we deserve as a commentary team, and you guys deserve as fans. The lead now under 3/10 has been hovering very low for quite a while there. Luke Pullum still not found a way past Ruggi. We know Ruggi is a really good defender. They showed that at Snetterton, they showed that in race 1, and they're showing it again. They haven't quite got the overtaking prowess that you need to be a champion, but if they put themselves near the front, then they're going to score points because they're just so hard to get past. Whether that's through clever car placement or just sheer bravery is not quite been decided yet, but they're going to do it as best they can. Both the cars running very close to the inside line there. Pullum makes the dummy round up the inside, then tries to run it all the way around the outside, carry the speed. Ruggi just runs it wide, puts it out on the outside curb, blocks the route. No move through for Pullum yet. That blue Toyota livery Toyota not finding its way past the WRT liveried Italian driver. Jack Noller still closing. Woolley's still there or thereabouts. His last lap time was much more respectable than any of the ones we've seen from him recently. It was a little bit of an incident. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that. Ruggi's race win may hang in the balance as the clock ticks down. 3, 2, 1. There we have it. 2 laps to go for the race win. Ruggi still leads from Pullum, Woolley and Noller. Those are your front 4. They have a really big gap behind though, but to the next car of Summer, who is in a stellar P5, and then Meet the Teacher and then John B. 3 drivers we've not seen near the front really at all this season, who have found the pace ahead of the ballasted up Aidan Larson and Owen Goldsmith. Jake Ansel and Kessler splitting the 2 of them towards the back end of the top 10, which means that we're going to see a grandstand finish up and down the grid, as you come to expect from the BUSR, unless you get a runaway leader, in which case it's kind of a grandstand finish, but for the rest of the podium. Well, there is some back markers coming into play though, There is, I believe that is Igor Vlasivlev is the car just up the road. So they're going to have to just have a little think and just make sure that Igor is aware they're there. I'm sure he will get out of the way as we start the final lap. They should catch Igor on this lap, but once they caught him, they will be clear and happy and dandy and fine, as Sam Knight is well clear ahead of this fight for the lead. The gap still 0.3, less than 1 lap to go now if Pullen wants this win.
And less than 2 seconds separating our top 4, so one small mistake and that will be off the podium for you, sir. So yes, slightly larger gap between P3 Josh Woolley and P2 Luke Pullen. It looks slightly unlikely at this stage that Jack Canolla will overtake Josh Woolley to get a first or second place in this race, but really we are being treated here to a four-way battle for the win. But there's limited corners now for Luke Pullen to pull that move to get into P1. If he does it, it will have to be down into this corner here.
Here we go, last gasp move. He's going to have to make it now, and he does. He gets the cutback there, side by side. Drag race towards the next corner. The two leaders go side by side. Rudy parks it on the inside, nowhere to go for Pullen. Can't seem to make the move. They're coming up now on the penultimate corner. There is this last hairpin before the tight right, and then towards the line. Are we going to go to the inside? No, Pullen too far back to think about it. Hoping for a mistake now for Rudy, who appears to put in the defensive performance of a lifetime to take their debut BUSR win. Rudy wins race 2 of the day. Pullen and then Josh Woolley and Jack Noller, not the recovery drive he was dreaming of, but still a strong performance from him. Excellent finish from Summer to take what might be their personal best of the season so far, definitely. Then Meet the Teacher comes home in 6th. Very strong points for them. Aidan Larson in 7th. John B in 8th. Great points for him. And then Jake Ansell will come home in 9th as the timing tower sorts itself out. Kessler comes home a strong 10th. Owen Goldsmith recovers his way back up to 11th. Then Alex Hughes, Jordan Pinnock, 2 other drivers that have had a bit of a rough Monday night. And then Bajam and then Dystopian rounds out the points with another singular point for them. Not the race they were hoping for our defending champion. Then Archie O'Leary, Ben Gilroy, GT Nismo to round out your top 18 or so as the rest of the grid comes up towards the line. I believe that is Cirque in 19th, and then Zalia will finish in 20th. But that is the end of our racing action. We will have driver interviews coming shortly. So if you wish to hear from our stunning race winners, please don't go anywhere. But that is it for Lithuania Motorsport Park. Andrea Ruud taking a rather interesting race win with a 4-car battle for the lead, with a controversial move on Josh Woolley to take the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the surprise there would be the fact that Jack Canolla didn't make any more headway than we expect of him. Obviously an incredibly quick driver, but maybe hampered there at the start. Maybe needed a little bit more time to catch up to the cars in front than we expected. But had we had one more lap of this race, then maybe he could have pulled a move. But yeah, P4 for the championship leader.
Yes, not the race he was dreaming of, but solid points, especially with his championship rival Aidan Larson well down out of where we would expect him to finish. So I'm sure his lead will be extended before our next result. For our next round next week at Autopolis. We will have interviews with our race winners, both in terms of overall and classes, coming up shortly. I think we will speak to probably Aidan Larson first of all. We might as well get started on these interviews. A strong race 1 for him, and then a less than stellar race 2 for the Australian. Hello Aidan, talk us through that weekend, or that Monday night. Very strong race 1, less than optimal race 2.
TLDR it was a bit of a, what do you call it? I haven't done any practice all week, so I've only had 3 hours to learn the track and find time. So it was a bit rough. That's on me though. I could have done practice for the week. I just chose not to. But I can't say I'm upset about race 1. Thankfully, I think Ben having that spin, they must have killed their tyres, so I was able to hold some pace after that and just kind of hold that P2. No way I was catching Noller. That's not a chance. Race 2, it's just tricky. When you're coming out to accelerate, the ballast absolutely kills you. And I think just in the corners, everyone's got such different lines. And it could just be a me thing because I haven't practiced, but because everyone's got different lines to me, it's hard to predict what people are going to do. So especially that those last 3 laps where I was fighting to get P7, that was rough because I did not know where I could find time to try and go inside or outside of them to try and get the position. But luckily, got it on the last corner. That worked out for me, but it was not a sure thing by any means.
Yeah, and you spoke there about practicing for this race. So obviously, I suppose limited track guides exist. This being a fictional racetrack, how did you go about preparing for this one?
Well, quite simply, hopped into the server, figured out the track was a bit funky, but I quite like it. I said in the chat earlier, it's like Kota if it was good, because I hate Kota, but I like the idea of it. This is everything I like about it. But basically, I popped in, I saw Ben did some fast laps, I was like, okay, let's see what he's doing. Saw what he did, and then finally caught up to him at least. And then Nola finally joined the server in the last 40 minutes. I was like, right, okay, now's the opportunity to learn. So, yeah, waited to steal from Nola, see what he did. Couldn't quite find the pace he did, but I'm glad I got into the kind of high 27s in the end. So, yeah, no complaints on that.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. And it's good to hear that you're learning from everybody across the grid. It's a very friendly community here at the BUSR.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Speak to you soon, Aidan.
See you later.
We're now going to hear from another one of our BUSR veterans, Josh Woolley. Less than optimal race 1, but a much stronger race 2 for him, despite some oopsie acty bumps between him and Ruji. So we're going to hear from him soon. Hello, Woolley. Not an optimal race 1, but a better race 2, but a race 2 of what could have been.
Yeah, just all round frustrating, to be honest. To get punted in race 1 is annoying, and then to get some interesting attacking on the final laps is never really what you want to see. So yeah, frustrating to lose the win through contact, but is what it is. We move on.
And yeah, you mentioned that spin, that punt in race 1. You had to drive through quite a lot of cars to get back up there. How was it fighting cars, battling cars around this track? Because obviously a new track for everybody out here.
Terrifying, to be honest. The speed differential through some of the corners between the guys at the front and the guys even in the midfield was rather extreme, and so a few cases of having to slam on the brakes at the apex of a pretty much flat out chicane because cars in front aren't taking the same amount of speed as me. Made it tricky, but all in all, for missing the entire week of practice and so learning the track about half an hour before qualifying, yeah, damage limitation.
Well, you certainly did a good amount of that with your drive through the field, and we hope you have more success and better luck next time out. Thank you for speaking to us, Josh.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.
We're now going to hear from our championship leader and race 1 winner, Jack Nolla. Very stellar drive from him, dominant race 1, and then a comeback through the field in race 2. So definitely a strong, happy day for him. Hello, Mr. Nolla. Talk us through your race 1 victory.
Yeah, I actually did a faster lap in the race than quali, which was surprising. So, but yeah, that was it. It was a bit more of a simpler one, white line of a start and keep calm and drive away. So, yeah, I think there was a bit more of a pace differential around here for race 1, but I think everyone was getting more and more practice and getting closer and closer as we went throughout. So, probably didn't see much of me in race 1, but maybe a bit more in race 2.
Yeah, indeed, we did see quite a lot of you in race 2 catching up to that pack. Although we were saying it wasn't as much as we expected, as much as qualifying would show. Kind of from your perspective, to what extent did the lap times of the drivers around you and from yourself improve over the course of the 2 races?
So yeah, I think I plateaued pretty much. I think I probably pushed a little too hard last about 2/3 of the way in. I probably overheated the tyres a little bit, had to calm down a little bit and reset. I'm sort of relying on 11 minutes to go, 7-second gap, relying on them fighting to catch up anyway. Because even if you look at the gap from practice, Rugi was only 3 tenths off me, 7-second gap and 3 tenths difference. In qualifying, 3 tenths looks like a lot, but when you've got 7 seconds to close in 11 minutes, it suddenly isn't a lot. So we were sort of relying on them fighting a bit, especially as I haven't had the best luck off the starts this season. Make my life difficult. I chose the wrong side to go off the start and got caught up in a little kerfuffle where both Gilroy and Aiden and I had to check up there. And lost positions to Summer and Sparrow and stuff like that. So made my life difficult, but it was fun chasing back through. A few close calls with guys spinning or trying to get by each other, but yeah, enjoyable. Off to Autopolis.
Yes, definitely. We hope to see you. Well, it's almost inevitable that we'll see you back here, it seems, at Autopolis.
Yes, so nice to see Luke arrive as well, and hopefully he'll stay for the rest of the year too. He's going to have a bit heavier car this time. Maybe, not sure. Maybe thereabout. But we've got a team of 3 if Sparrow's internet decides to hold together.
Indeed. Thank you for speaking to us, Jack.
Take care.
And finally, the star of race number 2, the Italian with his maiden BUSR victory, Andrea Ruggi, will be speaking to us just around off the stream. Hello, Mr. Ruggi. You won race 2. You must feel ecstatic right now.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, finally a victory. That was not easy.
Talk us through the process then. How was it for you? Was it a lot of driving in your mirrors and hoping?
So the first race, actually, I hoped for a better place because I started third position, but I had a little problem with someone in qualify, and I lost second position. But that's it, and it happens. And so in race 2. I smelled the first position possibility, and I gave it 100%. I might be a bit too aggressive, and let's see the stewards what we think about it.
So yeah, I mean, we mentioned there about your on the broadcast about your incredible defending. When you're leading these races, when you're in these high pressure situations, what's your kind of mentality? What's going through your mind when you're seeing these fast drivers, Nola, Willie, in your rearview mirrors?
Yeah, my mentality in that condition was pressure, but I was thinking more about my tires that were dead. They were dead actually on the first for end of the laps, and so I tried to defend as the best as I can, but it was not easy.
Well, you managed it and you pulled off that spectacular win, and we hope to see you back here with another race victory next week at Autopolis.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night, Andrea. And that brings us to the end of our broadcast. Any final thoughts from you, Tom?
Well, it's certainly a new experience for me, being, all the drivers and us as commentators being introduced to this totally unfamiliar track, and I've kind of enjoyed the chaos, the uncertainty, the variation in racing this has thrown up. You heard Willie there speaking about the sheer pace difference between guys who had figured out you could go flat through, I believe it was the first sector chicane, and some who thought maybe it wasn't possible. But yeah, out to hopefully a slightly more familiar track next week at Autopolis.
Yes, we're off to the land of the rising sun for the second time this season for the round number 4 of the year. Be back here at the same time, the same place. Thank you to our broadcast team for putting this together. Thank you to our race organisers, our drivers, and to you, the viewers. I've been Dan, he's been Tom. Good night.